so Manny, can you tell me your name and your title back home?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so your name and your title, and maybe a little bit about your credentials.
Yes. My name is Manny Sikau. I'm a master navigator, a PO that I went through the PO ceremony, and I'm from Pulauat Island or Pulauat Atolls in the Carolines, but I'm living in Guam.
Okay, thank you. Can you just spell your first and last name for the camera, please?
My first name is Manny, it's Manny. Last name Sikau, Sikau.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll get right into it. How did you become a navigator?
I became a navigator and become a PO in 1997. And by learning this knowledge ever since I was 5 years old, until I became a PO in 1997, then I became full-fledged navigator, a PO navigator in 1997. And this knowledge that I know, it's been passed down from generation to generation. I'm the seventh generation in my family, in my lineage. And our culture that it's kind of a shame if I don't know the knowledge which is have been a part of my family for generations before. And I hope that I will have one of my son to be the 8th generation of navigator.
How are navigators selected in your culture and community?
Wait 1 second before you answer that. Just make a little adjustment here. Okay.
Selection of navigators on my island is not really a selective thing. Kind of no selection, because one has to learn the knowledge from his father or from his uncle. And people don't say like you're gonna be the navigator. People look at someone whose father a navigator can assume and believe that the son will become a navigator in the future. So the process of selecting, I would say, began when one is born into a navigator's family and then keep learning and learning and learning. And then the whole community and other navigators, older navigators, look at the new navigators as, okay, he can become a navigator and a good navigator. There is no selection like you will be a navigator. We want this person to be a navigator. And it just, as I said, it's something like it's just within the family, and then it's once he become a navigator and sail, then it will be just up to the people how they judge him and other navigators. But there is nothing something like, okay, he's not going to be a navigator. Even he's not going to be a good navigator. The judgment of that is when somebody starts sailing, navigate, and how he manage, how he take care of his crew, how he apply the knowledge and all this discipline that he have been learning. Then people will look at him, so then they can define this one, this particular person is more into navigation, is true navigator.
Excellent, thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about the various levels of sort of graduating or maturing as a navigator? So you're training and then you graduate to the next level and the next.
There is, I would say there are some levels of navigators. In my own language, there is, we call it Ara. Ara is a navigator that he can navigate sailing around, but he's not a po. He hasn't entered or the po ceremony, so he's still an Ara. After Ara is the po. The po is like you're ordained, and you have spiritual power when you are po. You're a different person. You're in a different world. I would say a spiritual world, unlike the Arya. Then it's come up to, there is Repinuok. Repinuok, I don't really know how to translate that into English, but it's more seniority than the po. There is Marapur. Marapur is those navigators, they're really, really old, still alive. Marapur is, they all have white hair. And just, it's just like they don't sail anymore if they're too weak. But that's the next up after Repinuok. Then Muranao. Muranao, and above that is Murilap. Murilap is just like, I would say, living library, living dictionary or something. Emeritus, maybe like something like that. Yeah. And to attain these levels, there is no such thing like this person is a Marupur, and this navigator here is an Murilap. People and navigators know. They know, so, okay, this is the living library here. This is the most seniority here. And those who administer po to other peoples, they have more po under their wings. Yeah, then they consider them as Repinuok also. Those they administer. One thing I just want to mention about this is, once you're a po, as I mentioned about spiritual power, if you're an Ara, you're not a po yet, you cannot administer po ceremony unless you're a po. I think I would say, use an example, priest. I think priest, those who are qualified to be priest but they're not ordained yet, I believe that they can perform mass if they're not ordained, even though they know how to do the mass, but they're not ordained, so they cannot perform mass. Just like the navigators, you're an Arya and you're not a po, you cannot perform po ceremony.
Thank you. So can you tell me a little bit about what you folks, what you as a navigator and your crew would do to prepare for a voyage?
Preparation for voyage. That's another thing that, navigators are always prepared, day and night, all year round. They always prepare. The reason why I say that, because even though they have planned, they're going to sail, have a voyage, they have already prepared in their mind, because day and night the navigators sit around telling stories, but in the morning, the evening, at night, they keep watching the stars. Okay, we're in the month of this star. Okay, the fighting star will be fighting this time, and then they just keep forecasting, and then their minds been, and always prepared, even for fishing trip. They're always constantly watching the skies, watching the sky for forecasting weather. It would take good time to take them to a distant fishing ground, and it's like that. The only thing I would say that to prepare on a voyage is the day or one day before they set out, that they would prepare food which has been ready and stored, so they prepare for the voyage, and all provision that would be, and the crew, it's just a member of each canoe house is, they know, the navigator will just say, we'll be having voyage tomorrow or the day after tomorrow to this place, to this island. Then member of the family or the canoe house, they'll just come, I'm available, I will be a crew. If he doesn't have enough crew, that's time he can say, okay, he can ask around among his family member and the member of the canoe house. If there is somebody outside, he's not a member of the canoe house or a member of his clan, wants to go, come along, then it's up to him, sure. And it's good to have certain kind of people with some knowledge of other stuff that come along. Yeah. Even though the navigator has, known that, they know almost everything, I would say everything, but it's good to have an expert in other things, other stuff, like the medicine man. Even the navigator knows medicine, but it's good to have, a specialist in certain things.
So can you tell me a little bit about what your experience is in open ocean navigation and what it feels like and what you think?
Is experience in the ocean, and for myself, it's kind of, I was kind of unstable the first time I set on my first voyage. I kind of a little panic, but I always remember what my grandfather tells me, that if you're not brave enough, you cannot go anywhere. You're not a navigator. So you have to have courage to apply the knowledge that you have learned. So I always remember that. And after that, I like being on a canoe. I like voyaging. Especially when I'm in the ocean, I always feel at ease. My mind's so clear. Look around, surrounded by a big body of water, blue and clear. It makes my mind clear. I forgot things happen on land, and I always enjoy it. And there is some things that make some navigators and some crew members might feel worried. Like there is storm. There is during the day when there is no sun, it's so hot. At night when there is wind and rain, it's so cold. But we have a saying on my island that woman belongs to the land, men belong to the sea, and the ocean is the test of every man, of every individual man, to become a man. If you don't stand up with rains, with cold, with hardship in the ocean, you're not a complete man yet, because man belongs to the ocean. You have to know the knowledge of navigation. You have to be a chill in sailing to canoe, and you have to put up with every hardship in the ocean. We always say also that men just don't die on land. They die everywhere. They die on land by sickness, by falling down from trees, picking breadfruit or coconuts. They can be die in the ocean. So that's always on everybody's mind, every man's mind back home. That it's the man's life. You could die anywhere, on land and in the ocean. That's where it's test your determination and in the water, in the ocean, and discipline. All determination and discipline, you learn this through your learning of the art of navigation. And you have determination and discipline under hardship. You have to endure all hardship. And talking about, I mentioned about there's some worries about bad weather and all unexpectedly, but that's why there is forecasting weather. Always do that before voyage, so you won't encounter a typhoon or something. There is only a time for typhoon during a year, which is the navigator knows.
Yeah, we only have time for about one more question.
Okay. Can I ask two real quick ones?
Sure.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about a tie between conservation of the environment, species, biodiversity, and navigation, and how those complement each other?
Conservation, I think it's so important for conservation, other species especially, and especially for navigators. Because in navigation we use birds, sea creatures, even floating logs. But if we don't conserve, if they don't conserve some other species like birds that navigators use as guidance also, then navigators would have a little problem looking for those kind of birds, even the sea creatures. It's any kind of fish, or I would say even not all, but so many kind of fish that are sea marks, that we call it Pukov. Pukov, it's the inventory of birds, sea creatures, reef, floating logs surrounding each island. And you have to learn that, and you have to know their location from each island in the whole region. So if we don't have, they fish all the sharks, the navigators have problem, finding the sharks that indicate, okay, this is where land is. And just like the birds, if we don't have enough birds that, shows where land is, then we'll have a little problem. I think that's key to observe and, some other animals.
Yeah, you actually answered both questions, so we're good.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.